Are you the sort of person who wants to rush in and press all the buttons on a new appliance before looking at any instructions? Or are you the sort of person who wants to read that instruction book before you touch anything? G'day, I'm Sharon and welcome. Today I'm going to help both groups of people, because if you're the sort of person who wings it, chances are you've missed some of the things that you've got control over on your 400, 500 or 550E. If you're the kind who wants to read the instruction book first, maybe you've made yourself scared of the whole thing. And now what you need to do is work your way through my playlist and become friends with your machine. As always, let's begin with electricery. I don't want to resume the last pattern, so I'm going to X out of there. And we're on our home screen, which you can get to by going to the house. That's your home. The next tab down is for getting something out of a file. And this one is what I'm looking at today. It's the settings. You'll notice up the top we've got several tabs. X gets me out of settings. OK means that whatever I've changed in the settings is something I genuinely want to change. If I press X but not OK, anything I've changed is forgotten. I've got a flag, I've got a hoop, and I've got a sewing machine with a spanner. I'm currently in the one with a sewing machine and a spanner, and that's my common settings. When I get plus on the screen contrast, the screen gets brighter and brighter. When it gets as bright as it can, it starts beeping at me. Minus, it's getting darker and darker. If you're in a low light area, you'll probably want this to be set to a lower light. If you're in a high light area, you probably want it set higher. Volume. Got a little speaker here. If you listen carefully while I do this, at off I'm not getting any sound as I touch things. The little teardrop here is indicating what the default setting is. As I go up, you'll hear it getting louder. And that's as loud as it can go. I would recommend that you rarely, if ever, turn the volume off. For the moment, I'm leaving it on 3. This is where I have the option to change it from millimetres or metric into inches. When I am in millimetres, because I come from a metric country, it matches up with my template. Now, I am not 100% sure if you're in the United States, maybe you get a slightly different template than we do. If you've got this same template, I would recommend, even though you normally work in inches, that you put your machine into millimetres, because this grid, when it's in, machine is in millimetres, this grid matches the grids on the edit screens. So the grid is much more useful if you're in millimetres. You can see down here the machine is saying 1 of 5, so I'm on the first of 5 pages and I can go over the page by touching this arrow. We are still in common settings. This is for touch screen calibration. To explain what this is for, if I went to press this button and nothing happened, but if I pressed above it, it did, then the touch screen calibration is wrong. This is the place where I can fix that up, and it gets it back to the buttons being where I press them. So let's watch as I do it. Yes. Touch screen calibration, press mark plus. So I press with the this right in the center of that crosshair. And as I press them all, and now it's telling me to press underneath the bar at the bottom here in the middle of it, on the edge there. It has ended now. So now the machine has been calibrated. Everything should work and be perfect when you touch a button. If you get to a point where your buttons are not working, that is what you need to do. Format. A format in a computer is a bit like sorting everything in a drawer and putting it into a situation where the whole of one thing is all together. So you've got all your earrings in one place and all your whatever else in another place. If I do the format on the machine, stored data will be erased. I'm not going to do that because it's not my machine, but all you would do is press OK and the machine will clean up all of the memory inside it. I am, however, going to format a USB. This is a 32 gigabyte USB that I bought and it's blank. Nothing's been done to it. I'm going to plug it into the side of the machine to put my key in. It goes with the empty holes up in there. Now that I've got the key in, I press this picture of the USB. It's asking me, do I want to format the memory? Yes, I do. OK. As you can see, that took a good long while to format. The bigger the key is that I've put in, the longer it will take to format. I will show you an easier way to do it on a computer at a later date. Standby timer. I can set this, it's in minutes. This is how long the screen will stay active if nothing is done for it. So if you want to sit it there for a long time, you can. You can cut it out if you like. It's up to you. Upper thread sensor, on or off. This is whether the machine is going to notice if the upper thread is broken. I want it on. At this point, you're probably asking, why on earth would anyone ever turn that off? Well, if you are trying to make templates for quilting that you want to put Ponce powder through something that's got a lot of little holes in it, you can actually use this to make a template if you've already got a pattern that's got like this. Maybe you stitch around through a pile of tearaway, make all the holes, and then you can put that piece of tearaway on top of a fabric and pounce powder through it. There are reasons. Sewing light on and off. If we're watching over here and I turn this off, you can see the light goes down. Quiet mode, on and off. If I turn quiet mode on, it will limit how fast the machine can go. That's basically what it does. Common settings, page 4. Clean bobbin holder message, on or off. If you turn this off, the machine will never tell you, go and check your bobbin case and see if it's dirty. If it's on, every now and then the machine is going to say to you, hey look, check out my bobbin case, it might need a clean. Background colour. If I turn that to yellow, you can see what it's going to look like, although it doesn't come up on the film as bright as it is. You can play with these. The pink, default setting is a bluey grey. Resetting everything to default. I'm not going to do that to Velma. Over the page, auto off time setting. This is how long, if the entire machine is just left on its own for 7 hours, it's going to turn itself off. So they're all the common settings. And now we're going to look at the one that's got a hoop, which is what we do embroidery in. So these will be the embroidery settings. There are 6 pages of embroidery settings. The first one is auto tension. Janome assumes that you're using their bobbin fill. And because they assume you're using their bobbin fill, the auto tension is actually set for Janome's bobbin fill. If you are using anything else consistently, this is the place to change it. If the bobbin is coming up and being visible on the top, then you need to go minus here. If you are getting an awful lot of the top thread, the embroidery thread, going down underneath, you can increase it here. However, this is going to matter for every single design you are doing. If you only want to do something for a particular design, don't do it here, do it in the ready to sew screen. Remaining bobbin thread. This is one that almost everyone is going to want to change. When you arrive with your brand new machine in the box, it's going to be set up here at 2. If you leave it there, you are going to end up with a lot of bobbins that have an enormous amount of thread still on them, and the machine won't use them because it feels like it's going to run out of thread. I generally would take machines down to 0.5 because although it's still annoying, it's nowhere near as annoying as it could be. If you really want to, you can take it down to 0. At that point, the machine will not warn you that you're getting low on bobbin thread. I like to keep it usually on 0.5. Over the page, page 2 of 6. Maximum speed setting. It's currently set at 600. This machine can go up to 860 stitches per minute. I don't generally feel the need to run my machines that fast. Maybe you've got something you need to do in a hurry and you do need to do that. I am more likely to have my machine set down to 400 stitches per minute, which is as low as it can go. The machine will not be doing 400 stitches per minute every minute for the entire design. There are some times when it has to go a lot slower than that. But I'm happy with it usually being on 400. This one was on 600 and I'll leave it there. 1 stitch stop. If you have seen me doing any of my designs recently, you will have seen 1 stitch stop being used, and I will explain it again for this machine. It's just a bit hard to explain it when I'm not sewing. Consecutive colour grouping would mean that if the machine was doing multiples of the same colour, it will just join them up. It won't stop in between things. Hoop confirmation, always leave this on. It is really important that you don't tell the machine it's got a big hoop on when it's got a small hoop on. You definitely do not want to hear the noises that happen if your machine runs into the hoop. It's really not very nice. So make sure you leave that on, and then the machine will say to you, I think you've got the 200 by 200 hoop on, and it will give you an option to check it. Yes, it's the right one. Hoop calibration is a little bit like screen calibration. It gives us an opportunity to check where the middle of the hoop is compared to where the machine thinks the middle of the hoop is. Page 4, thread cutting, on or off. As a rule, we mostly want thread cutting on. Sometimes you don't. I find occasionally on lettering, particularly with small lettering, if I have the thread cutting on, the machine will keep unthreading itself. You can change a few things around here. I don't think we really need to play with that at the moment. Page 5 of 6 in embroidery, thread selection. You are able with this to tell the machine which set of colours you're wanting it to use. I personally find this Janome polyester one to be really good. and I'll try and explain now why. This is the Madeira colour chart for their embroidery threads, or it was a few years ago. There are lots and lots and lots of colours in it, and it's unlikely that you're going to have all of them. What that means is that your machine is going to tell you which colour to get, and you probably won't know what it is unless you happen to have one of these charts. This one is an old Janome chart. They don't actually make them with the threads physically on them anymore, I don't believe, but you certainly can get a chart that has got all the colours printed on it. What's the advantage? If your machine is telling you that you need 2 yellow colours in the design, you can have a look on your chart and work out which one is the darker yellow and which one's the lighter yellow. If what you have got is a whole heap of different threads from different brands, you can still look at them and go, that's the darker yellow, that's the lighter yellow, and use it in your design. If you don't have a good way of checking which one is darker or lighter or brighter or more orange or whatever, then you don't know which one of your threads you need to go looking for. I would heartily recommend you use the Janome polyester thread chart in the machine. Get hold of one of the little card charts, because whilst it's not perfect, it's probably going to do what you need it to do. Over the page to page 6, grid line on and off. When you go into the edit screen, the grid lines will show up. And if you have grid lines on, you'll see lines on the screen that match up to this if you've got it set to 10 millimeters. So I would heartily recommend you leave that on. You can change it and make them further apart, but 10 millimeters is what the template is. Resume mode you almost certainly do want on. If the power goes out on your machine, or you have to leave for some reason and you've got resume mode on, when you turn the machine off, when it comes on again, it will allow you to go back to exactly the same stitch you were on before. That's all of the embroidery settings. The next tab I've got at the top here is a flag, and it gives me the option to choose the language. Most of us will never need to know where the languages are on our machines. They're set in the factory and they're probably correct for you. However, sometimes we have small people in our lives who like to play with things, and if you suddenly find that your machine is speaking to you in Finnish, maybe you need to go and change it back. So finally we have OK. If we've changed anything, we need to press OK for it to be registered. If we haven't changed anything, or we don't want to remember the changes we made, then you X out of it. So have you learned something new about your machine today? I hope you have. Once again, huge thank you to Valma for letting me use her machine to do these tutorials. And I will see you next time.